Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Gail, and welcome to my New York City apartment. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Gail Schulman, and I'm a photographer, and we are here in my New York City apartment. I've lived in many places in New York. When I first moved here, I lived on the Upper West Side. After that, I lived in Astoria, Queens for 2 years. And then after Astoria, I lived in Crown Heights, Brooklyn for 1 year. And then I've been in this neighborhood, which is the Upper East Side, for the past 3.5 years. And I found this apartment through StreetEasy, which is a great site if you're looking for an apartment here in New York, or like the general tri-state area. What pulled me to this apartment is I wanted more sunlight, and there is massive windows in this apartment. In my previous apartment, I had a room that was kind of a dungeon, which was a challenge. I think I did my best, but when I saw this apartment, I knew I wanted it because of the 3 windows in all the rooms, and also this massive, beautiful brick fireplace, which is behind me. The square footage of this apartment, my current apartment, is 375 square feet, which to some might seem small, but it's actually 100 square feet larger than my previous apartment. So I thought, I struck gold. So it wasn't too much of a challenge because I've worked with smaller spaces before. If anything, it gave me more room to play. So this is my favorite room of the apartment, and that's because it is so bright with the windows. I adore my area rug, which I'm embarrassed to say how many hours I searched online looking for the perfect area rug, and kind of in a panic, I ordered 2. One that was a very different style than this one. It was more like bohemian reds. And then I saw this on Etsy, and I pulled the trigger, and very happy with it. I feel like it really completes the space. So this is my sofa, one of my prized possessions, and that is because this is the first sofa I purchased on my own, and it's a proper size sofa, so people can sleep on it, which is key if you have people visiting your apartment. I just love the color. It's, I think, like a velvety material, but not like too plasticky, if you know what I mean. It doesn't have that shine or that reflectiveness that cheap velvet can look like. But anyway, I'm kind of OCD a little bit. When I get up, I tend to wipe down my markings so that it looks nice and clean at all times. And then my sister got me this throw blanket for a housewarming gift, which has gone with me for 2 apartments, but luckily my color scheme usually tends to stay the same. And this piece of wall art, this has a whole fun story behind it. So when I was decorating my space within the first couple of months, I got my sofa, this lamp was in the corner. I knew I wanted like something really big, which obviously means big money if you want big art. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was thinking about like getting a big canvas and like painting, because I also paint. But even the canvas of this size would cost like hundreds of dollars. So yeah, I was like walking to a bar one night in my neighborhood, and I saw this on the side of the road, like surrounded by trash. And I remember like walking by it, stopping and like looking at it. I thought the shape was very interesting, and I thought maybe it could work, especially since the dimensions were exactly what I was looking for. Like, this thing is huge. So I said, if it's still there after the bar, I'm gonna carry it home. So now you have the visual of me carrying my entryway piece, and now the visual of me carrying this on the street. And this is heavy. This is solid wood. I think it must be like 25, 30 pounds. It probably sat in my kitchen for like a month until I finally mustered up the motivation to get the paint. So I cleaned it. I went to Benjamin Moore. I think the name of the color is Durango Dust, something like that. So I painted it, and then I hired a TaskRabbit to mount it on my wall. And I love it. I chose this color because I didn't want something like too bold, because the piece already is so bold itself. So yeah, it's just like a subtle statement, a subtle big statement. I love it. So I made like a whole YouTube video about when I found this piece, And one of my subscribers commented and helped me figure out what this actually was, because this was outside of a children's daycare. So I assumed it was like maybe part of a sandbox, or I don't know, some like kids, like a hole that kids can climb through. I have no idea. But it turns out that this was an Urban Outfitters mirror. So someone had this, and I guess like the mirrors must have shattered, but now it's my unique piece of art. So this floor lamp I got in Providence, Rhode Island from this amazing thrift store or secondhand store called Pop. I think my sister and I had gotten a few beers beforehand, so I was feeling, like a little spontaneous, let's just say that. And I did drive my Camry to Providence at the time, and I had my car in the city at the time. So I saw this lamp at the store, and it had been what I was like eyeing out for. I really like this almost like octopus arm type branching out lamp. I'm sure there's a proper term for it, which I'm totally butchering right now. But this is what I was looking for, and I saw it. So I drove this back to New York from Providence, Rhode Island, and it's been with me in my past 3 apartments. And it's great. I feel like it really just creates a zone by kind of like literally carving out its own space. One thing though is that during my move, something happened with the wiring. So unfortunately, these 2 tallest branches don't turn on, but I'm sure I can just get an electrician to look at it eventually. Like the lamp, a lot of these pieces are secondhand or from Facebook Marketplace, from thrift stores, from estate sales. So this lamp, as I said, was from a secondhand store. This table, my coffee table, was from Facebook Marketplace. Same thing with these chairs. I got these from New Jersey. For, I kid you not, it was only $20 each. And they were in like perfect condition. I brought them home to my mom's house, and I like spent an hour cleaning them, and I love them. And they actually sat in my mom's basement for a year before I moved into this apartment where I could properly have them. And then same thing with my bookshelf. This was found on Facebook Marketplace as well. So a lot of secondhand, which is one, financially more approachable. And I think that furniture can live multiple lives. Like, I don't think people should feel the need to buy new all the time. A lot of things can have history and can be upcycled and still look stylish and clean. This is my media console, and as you can see, I display some of my records. I started collecting records about 10 years ago, give or take, maybe more. What inspired me to start a record collection was from this movie called Warm Bodies. And it's, if you haven't seen it, it's about like a zombie apocalypse, and it's about this Romeo and Juliet type story between like a human and a zombie. And there's this scene where he's in the airplane and he puts on a it was a Bob Dylan record. Shelter from the Storm is the song that he put on. And I remember in that moment, like, she recognizes that he's kind of human and there's something in him that is like noteworthy and special. And obviously, like, Shelter from the Storm is such an incredible song, Bob Dylan, you know. And that kind of sparked my record collection. And here I am 10 years later. I have about, I recently counted, I must have like 200 records in this apartment, maybe 250. And then I have some in my mom's house in Jersey. But there's more in here. And I don't know, the great thing about vinyl is that it comes in these beautiful record cases. So when it came to like decorating my apartment, which I've done since I moved into New York, I bought these literally for my first New York City apartment, and they've come with me in every apartment that I lived in. I kind of display what's on current rotation, and currently I was just playing Paul Simon, but for the past 4 or 5 days, I've been exclusively listening to this Ella Fitzgerald album, which is Ella in Berlin. Like my furniture from everywhere, some of it's been handed down from my family. Like, I have my mom's records, I have my grandparents' records, I have records that I got in estate sales, you know, the dollar bin section. If I'm really excited about a record, I'll buy it new, which, you know, I don't do often because they can be like $35. I think like the process of putting on a record feels therapeutic in a way. It's something that you can enjoy and like physically just get the satisfaction from. So again, I have a bunch of knickknacks on my bookshelf. I love Lincoln Center. That's like the area that I lived in when I first moved to New York. So for Hanukkah this year, I asked my mom to get me, you know, dainty little binoculars, which I have yet to use, but I cannot wait. I need to go to the opera or go to the ballet soon just so I can pull out these bad boys. I also journal. I've been journaling for also over 10 years of my life. So this kind of like is my life story on my bookshelf, and my current journal is in the kitchen or in the dining room. But yeah, in front of the journal, I ran the New York City Marathon the past 2 years. So these are my prized medals, which is cool. I'm not running it this year, but I think I will run it one more time just because 3 feels like a good number. 2's good, but 3's better. So I keep that on display because obviously that's a big accomplishment. And then on the bottom shelf, I have one of my Polaroid cameras. I did mention that I am a photographer by trade, and I really love physical media, if you can't tell by my record collection and everything else. So I love Polaroids because you get that immediate satisfaction of having a printed moment that can't really be replicated by anything else. You know, we live in a digital world, but I think there's something to be said about analog. So this is one of my cameras. And I do keep, you know, my own personal photo albums of my friend and family. I think photo albums are also a lost art that more people should do. These trinkets have been acquired throughout the years. I have a collection of thimbles and a tiny cup from my friend Morgane. But yeah, Morgane also got me this little thimble from Greece. I got this little thimble in Israel. I got this thimble in Barcelona. And then this little thimble was always in my sister's bedroom growing up. And I kind of stole it from her bedroom, and it's been mine ever since. And it started the collection. And here's a picture of my siblings. I'm very close with my family, and my brother and my sisters. So they're on display as well. And what else? Oh, I got this mermaid from, what was it? It was like a boutique store on the Upper West Side. I think I got it 3 years ago. And then the tall man you see here was my grandpa's. And there's other figurines around the apartment that was his. Unfortunately, he didn't necessarily give it to me. After he passed, my family was like, everyone go into the house and like take some things that look special to you or you'd like. And that's one thing that I took. And this funky little plant, my friend Megan just recently moved to Baltimore, so I'm officially plant sitting this big guy, which I love because he's so spunky and I don't know, it just adds a little pop of character in the corner, which I didn't know I needed. Honestly, I put it up there and I was like, I don't know if that works. And then I woke up the next morning and I saw it in the corner and I was like, I love it. It's just like a firework of fun. So this is the prized possession of the apartment, which is the fireplace. I just think it adds like so much coziness and warmth to the room. I decided as soon as I moved in to get pillar candles to light. Obviously, this is not like a functioning fireplace. I wanted to emote the same type of coziness, hence the candles. But yeah, as you can see, this like mantle is kind of interesting because it is taller than most mantles that I've come across at least. So for a while, I had a mirror on top of the mantle, which I liked, but I didn't love because it didn't reflect anything back. Like I don't have some type of light fixture that it could reflect on. Rather, it reflected my beeping like fire detector, which is not a good mood, you know? So I found this wreath in Union Square Market. It's dried up now, but I really like how it looks. And again, all of my trinkets kind of have the same earth tone. I have this plant that in my previous apartment, someone put out a little sign saying free, I need a new home. This is his new home. This is another trinket that was my grandpa's. This woman, I have no idea where my grandpa got it from, but she's beautiful and I love her. And I only just realized that it must have broke at some point because it looks like my grandpa must have glued her back together. And then a little terrarium, so I have a mini tree. This is just, I have some shells in here because you never know when you need more shells, right? These books were also my grandparents'. They are over 100 years old. And I know for the sake of the spine, you're supposed to have them upright, but like, I just love how it looks. And I swear I take good care of them. So there's like, what is it? There's a guide to war. There's a Bible in here. There's a fairy tale, how Peter Rabbit went to the sea. Whatever you're in the mood for, got you covered. And then these two I got from my best friend's wedding in the cute little town we were staying in. And yeah, these pillar candle holders. I got these from Brooklyn a couple years ago when I was living in Crown Heights. I think I've managed to make the most out of this tall mantle. And another thing that ended up being a blessing in disguise is that with the height, I was able to figure out my movie screening process. So it's not out right now, but if I'm ever in the mood to watch a movie or watch TV, which necessarily doesn't happen during the day, I tend to only watch TV at night, I will take it out from underneath my couch, which is where I store the screen. I will mount it right here, roll it down, and then I have a projector that I put on my coffee table, and I have a Bluetooth for sound. So that's how I watch my television. So when designing the apartment, I kind of had to figure out what my priorities were. I knew I wanted a living space where people can sit, like congregate and talk easily. And I also wanted to have a dining space because I like hosting, so I wanted to have a place where my friends and my family could sit and like, again, eat, talk, relax. And it's also where I work, so I needed like a tabletop for that. So the biggest challenge was really trying to figure out how to divide up this one room because my living room, my foyer, and my dining space is all within one square box. Otherwise, I have a bedroom, which is a blessing. Not a lot of people have bedrooms in New York. And then I have a separate kitchen and bathroom, which is really nice. So yeah, that is the living room. I hope you find it cozy, because I do. And here is my dining room, dining nook, dining space, however you want to call it. As I mentioned before, when you're picking out furniture in small spaces, it's really important to figure out pieces that can serve two functions. One, the function of the piece of furniture, but also the function of storage. So here I have, my laptop is right here right now, which probably shouldn't be in there, but I have like an extra blanket. I have, random stuff that really doesn't have anywhere else to be. So it's in my bench. And I got these back panels off of Etsy because I wanted to create, like a nice seat that felt cohesive, that feels like a proper bench. And just having a bench like felt empty, like there would just be this negative space on the wall. And I see sometimes that people also use like pillows to create that zone, but I wanted something like a little more solid. So I used command strips to mount this on the wall. And it's funny, like I am a photographer, but there are no photos on my gallery wall. It's all paintings or illustration, and each has a story. I painted this in high school, which I was really proud of, and I remember my teacher, Mr. Dursey, after I finished, said, "Gail, like you are a painter," and he put it in his art show that year. So this painting is special to me. This was just found on Facebook Marketplace, I believe. This painting is a print from a museum I went to in Paris. For my 30th birthday, I learned how to surf, so I got this animation, or this design is from the Dominican Republic when I learned how to surf when I turned 30, which was really fun. My friend Emily gifted me that watercolor. And funny story, I could have sworn that the flower painting was painted by my aunt, but it turns out it's painted by my cousin, which she just told me like 2 months ago, because I post a lot of pictures of my apartment, and she was like, "Gail, where'd you get that from?" And it turns out that's her high school painting. And I did ask if she wants it back, and she said no, so I'm keeping it. And then at the very far end, that is a painting that I got when I was in Morocco from a street vendor. I just thought it was really pretty. I love the colors, and yeah, it's nice. I feel like there's hints of blue throughout the apartment, but it's not overt, and it kind of just stitches everything together. I feel like the blue in those paintings tie back to the blue of the area rug. And then I have my beautiful dining room table. A lot of these things are from Amazon. I really tried my hardest to find, this properly vintage, but they were very expensive. I think I found one chair for $800, and I was like, that is out of my budget. So this is a great alternative off of Amazon, well made, very comfortable. No, this is not sponsored by Amazon, but it's just a great piece. And then I always keep flowers in my apartment as well. I love tulips. Well, my favorite flower is ranunculus, but tulips is like a close second. So also for the dining room, I got a nice pendant light, and I really think this is the unsung hero of the corner. I think it really creates and solidifies the zone. Otherwise, it feels like the table would just be floating in this space, especially since the living room's right here, the foyer's right here. This light, tells you where you are, and you are in the dining room, you're about to eat, and yeah, I love it. Originally, I was thinking about doing a color, but there's so much going on that I thought just like a nice white, clean pendant light would be great. And then additionally, on the side of the fridge, again, if you live in a small space, you gotta maximize every corner. I got these magnetic baskets, which kind of serves as my junk drawer. So I have pens, papers, wires, computer chargers, scissors, tape, mail, it all lives in there. Otherwise, I really don't know where I'd put it. So it's great to use the magnetic features of your refrigerator, which we also do on the other side. And again, pothos plant, it's a great way to hide clutter and just add some greenery and some life and some airiness into a space that otherwise would feel a little crowded. So for my previous apartments, the first time I moved in, my first year in New York, I had 2 random roommates that I found on Facebook, and literally my room was a box. I had no closet. You opened the door and it led right into the kitchen, which we also kind of made a dining room. It was really small. And then I upgraded when I went to Astoria. I lived with my partner at the time. And then in Queens, I lived with 2 roommates. It was a railroad style. It was massive. It was really great, except it was not well maintained by management. So there was a lot of pests. And then the apartment before this was 270 square feet. And that was hard because it was good for just me. But I love hosting, and it felt debilitating in a way to not be able to have people over comfortably, which is something that I love to do. I'm a hoster. So this apartment kind of puts together all of the great elements of all my previous apartments. So welcome to my kitchen. If you can believe it, this kitchen is way bigger than my previous kitchens, or at least the immediate previous kitchen. Yeah, it's great. I do cook, I think I cook more than the average New Yorker just because of budgetary reasons. You can really spend a lot of money if you eat out every day. So I try not to do that, and I try to use my kitchen, but I could be better. There's always room for improvement. I recently upgraded the design of this kitchen, of this space. Before, it really was just a blank white wall with big bulky silver knobs. Recently, I added these 2 plants to the wall. I found these planters online. I think they're from North Dakota, but it was the closest thing that I can find to my vision. So I added that and some greenery. If you get the trend that's happening, I love plants, and I think they add so much life and character to a space without having to do anything at all. So I added those. And then these are peel and stick tiles that I also got off of Amazon. Originally, I was thinking maybe to do black and white, but I don't know. I feel like the green is just more approachable, a little less harsh. So I went with the peel and stick, which in itself adds, again, so much character. I feel like I didn't have to do too much after the fact, but I did, of course, because I like decorating. That's who I am. So the next thing I did was I changed out the hardware. Before, it was really bulky silver knobs. I found these brass, sleeker. It looks vintage. It's not vintage, but it looks vintage. I added this underlighting to the kitchen as well because I avoid turning on the overheads at all costs. It's just harsh fluorescence that no one needs, unless if you're in a hospital or, an office, not in a home. So I added that. And yeah, again, flowers. I like to add a little cozy space into every corner that I can. Because there are no windows in this corner of the apartment, light can spill in, but it's still rather dark in comparison. So I added a small mirror to reflect back the windows and just add, a reflective pop of light where there is no light. Again, all of these pieces are thrifted. This little bowl, I think I got in Kansas. This brass vase I got just 2 months ago in New York. And chopping block, mirror from New Jersey. Yeah, I think all the pieces kind of create something that's nice and cozy. And another thing I did in the kitchen was put up this little curtain which hides the trash behind it. Otherwise, it's really just like a hole, and then you see like the trash bin, you see the recycling bin. I didn't really want to see that visual noise, visual clutter anymore. So I put this up, and it's really pretty. Although my recycling definitely piles up more so nowadays because I don't see it, which is an issue I need to address. That's like personal work I need to do. So that's all for the kitchen. I feel like it's still kind of a work in progress. I could do more, and I probably will, but I'm very happy with how it is right now. So moving on. My favorite aspect to this apartment is probably twofold. On a very basic level, it's nice and quiet in this apartment. I mean, sometimes you can hear like the cars and the sirens, but relatively I wake up and there's birds chirping, which is quite rare, I would think, in New York. And there's trees in my backyard. I'm like backyard facing, so I think that's a big plus, depending on what you're looking for, but the quiet's really nice. I would say that my favorite part of the apartment, I guess, has to be the fireplace. And it's funny because when I first came to this apartment, they showed me a different apartment in this building. It wasn't this one, and it didn't have a fireplace. And when we agreed and I submitted all my paperwork and they accepted me for the lease, I wanted to take one more look at the apartment before I signed. So I came, and they must have messed up, or they sent someone else. And I walked into this apartment, which is very similar to the one that I had seen, but it did not include the fireplace. So I did not say a word, did not say a peep, and I signed that document, and they handed me the keys. So this wasn't even my intention. It was just like a big surprise upon signing my lease. Welcome to my entryway foyer. Obviously, I didn't really have a proper foyer to work with, so I kind of manifested my own, or created my own here. I added two hooks so I added two hooks here so that I can put the coat that I'm wearing, and this is my baseball cap that has a slice of pizza on it because we're in New York. And right over here, I have like an entryway mirror so I can check the outfit before I head out into the world. And then this general key dish, which actually is one of many things in my apartment that came from my grandparents. And this is just kind of like a catch-all, my keys, and just like a trio of pretty knickknacks. So one thing that I recommend for anyone who lives in a small apartment is to pick out furniture where you can house all of your stuff, because there isn't a lot of space. Where I put my shoes is generally in these baskets right here. And then also in this cabinetry, which I found on the street, and I did carry this home. Someone helped me like up the stairs, but it was quite the sight seeing me carry this. I had a bruise on my leg for like a week as a battle wound. Anyway, so I have some nice dishware up here and more knickknacks, but if you open, I have more shoe storage, which is quite nice. And obviously I love color, if you can't tell. So that is like the entryway. And then I like adding pops of green throughout the apartment. So I decided to add like a draping pothos plant and this figurine that I found at a thrift store. And that's kind of like the whole entryway. Not a lot to see, but it's very functional and it does what it needs to do. The way I would describe my design style, I feel like a lot of people ask me this and I kind of have trouble answering it. I would say that it's eclectic, definitely has mid-century undertones, clean and organized, but colorful. Colorful in a sense that it's all kind of earth tones. I don't know, like there's a lot of colors going on, but everything feels muted in a way, and I would think harmonious. I like natural elements, so I like wood, I like metals, I don't know. I guess my design style, if I were to describe it in 3 words, it would be cozy, stylish, and grounding, maybe? You tell me, I don't know. Tell me what you think at the end of this video. What do you think it is? Because I don't know. So from the kitchen, we will now go to the bedroom. Welcome to the bedroom. Short walk, I know. I think in comparison to the living room and the dining room, I really wanted to keep the bedroom simple. With the bedroom, I tried to stay with like the pinks and the yellows and the beiges. I wanted to keep it airy and simple, just so like my mind can shut off before I go to bed. Very lucky to have another big window in the space, which really makes the room bright. I have this hopper painting above my bed, and then I just like layered some yellow pillows. Again, really simple. And, you know, part of me thinks I could do more, but I kind of like how tranquil it is in this corner. And some of the framed photographs that I have were also from my trip to Morocco. I just really like the vibe it gives off. At first I thought they could be like maybe seen as being slightly scary, but I think they're actually quite peaceful. Yeah. And then I have this pendant light that I also hung above my bed. For the first week after I hung it up, I was a little nervous that it was going to fall on me in the middle of my sleep, but it didn't. That thing is secure. Happy to report it has not budged. But again, just kind of relied on that painting for my color scheme. I think that's one of my hot takes. I think if you're having a hard time figuring out what color scheme you want to do for your home, you can like seek out inspiration to different paintings or different pieces of art that are out in the world, or even just like nature. And you can just like take note of the colors that they choose and like the harmony it creates. And then you can just like replicate that in your own way, in your own space. So I feel like I've done that where, you know, there's like a pop of yellow, there's reds. Now that I really think about it, I feel like that painting encompasses the color scheme of this room. And then also one more thing about the bed is that I have a taller bed frame because I store a lot underneath this bed. Another hot tip for small spaces or small apartments, get furniture that is tall so that you can store underneath. I have like 2 Christmas trees underneath there, if you could believe it. And then again, I went for a taller bedside table just to meet the height, and I try to keep one little tulip or one flower bedside for me. And yeah, again, I try not to turn on the overheads. So I got this floor lamp from an estate sale, and I've had it for a couple, like many years now, probably 5 or 6 years. And it will not surprise you that this piece of furniture is also secondhand. I got it off of Facebook Marketplace, and bless that soul, he carried this up my 4 flights of stairs by himself. Well, he took out the drawers, but yeah, this was delivered and I love it. This is the first time I've had a dresser in a New York City apartment, and it's really a game changer because I can store so many of my clothes, my jeans, my shirts, my running gear. It all is in here, which is great. And I think it also has like some mid-century influence with the legs and the handles and the wood. I love it. I think this is going to stay with me for a long time. I can talk about every tiny little object in this apartment, but I will spare you from those details. This is a dish that has many pieces of jewelry throughout my life, throughout my travels, throughout my family. Same thing with these trinkets. You know, this is from Philadelphia, this is from London, this was a gift, this was also a gift. Everything has meaning behind it, including this little necklace that my old coworker Kathleen made for me, which was really nice. And yeah, this is a Picasso print that I got on Black Friday from a thrift store off of Route 22 in New Jersey. I didn't know at the time that it was Picasso, and it honestly wasn't until I was at, where was I? I was at the MoMA. Is it the MoMA or the Met? The MoMA or the Met in New York City, 2 museums. I walked into the room and I saw the real painting, which is like huge. I was like, oh, it's Picasso. So that's when I found out that it was a Picasso print. Anyway, yeah, so this is the dresser. Again, I didn't feel the need to hang it because I like how it looks as it sits on the dresser, and just trinkets, jewelry, little pieces of me. What this home has meant for me, it really has just been a place where I can carve out my peaceful little haven in the chaos of New York City. You know, you walk outside and there's a million people, there's so many sounds, there's so much going on. And then when I enter into this space, I don't have to like think about anything. I can just relax and do what I want to do, listen to my music, have my friends and family over, and kind of just enjoy the space that I've created for myself.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.